Welcome to Experience Fit Life, your personal life and leadership coach, where we talk about all things related to life and leadership and how to grow and be the best version of ourselves so that we can help others be the best version of themselves. And today I want to talk to you about resilience and well-being and burnout prevention. Burnout prevention is one of my heavy topics I love talking about. I am the best example of how to prevent burnout because I am the best example of creating burnout in my own life. And so I thought, what better way to navigate how I overcome this and have to choose to overcome it on a daily basis and help others do the same, because we do live in a world of identity crisis and busyness, and we have to establish how to prevent burnout in our life. And so I want to talk about leading sustainably without losing yourself or your people. So burnout is not a personal failure. And so I want to start with something important. Burnout is not a sign that you are weak. It's not a sign that you lack discipline or drive. And it's not a personal failure. It's often the predictable result of sustained pressure without recovery. And sometimes that means having to have better boundaries or reestablish our priorities or recalibrate, as I am enjoying saying. That's my favorite word right now as we head into 2026. Let's recalibrate. Let's draw the line in the sand, recalibrate, and figure out what's what here. And so burnout is often, it's such a under addressed topic. And so right now, leaders are under more sustained pressure now than ever. And the expectations are higher, the margins feel thinner, and the change is nonstop, especially in the AI driven world we live in now. And I am immersed into AI with my digital marketing work, and it can be absolutely exhausting trying to navigate what this new normal looks like. For 15 years, Google was our new normal. And so, as a digital marketer, you have pretty well the same principles of how to navigate Google and making websites show up on Google. And so now you have to discover how we make this look for AI-driven searches. And so change will always be nonstop, especially in the technology-driven world we live in today. But somehow leaders are expected to navigate it all while keeping everyone motivated and productive and engaged. And so today we're going to talk about resilience and well-being and burnout prevention, not from a wellness trend perspective. I know, coming up on the first of the year, but from a leadership responsibility perspective, because sustainable performance is no longer optional. And leaders are no longer just expected to support well-being, they are expected to model it. And so why is burnout a leadership issue and not just an individual one? Because it is both. For a long time, burnout was treated as an individual problem. And you need better time management. You need to set better boundaries. You need to be more resilient. And so while personal responsibility matters because it does start with ourselves, that framing misses the bigger picture. Burnout is not just about workload, work overload. It's about sustained emotional strain. It happens when people feel constantly on, constantly reactive, and constantly behind. And leadership behavior plays a major role in that experience. Think about our phones. We have push notifications which force us to constantly be on. And then to level that up, we add the watches to not only if we don't have our phone on us, but now we have the watch to make sure that we are being notified of our notifications, if we're standing up every hour, if we've hit our move goal for today. And so, it's just constant, where I actually look forward to putting my phone on Do Not Disturb at seasons of my day so that I can focus on things, because it's otherwise exhausting, and that's what can help create burnout. And so we need to talk about how leaders communicate urgency, how leaders handle boundaries, how leaders respond to stress, how do leaders define success. And so all of these influence whether burnout accelerates or is prevented. And leaders may not cause all pressure, but they absolutely shape how pressure is experienced, which means resilience and well-being are not fringe topics. They are core leadership competencies. And so if we talk about the shift from work-life balance to work-life integration, let's clear something up. Work-life balance is a myth for most leaders. Life does not happen in neat compartments. Emails do not stop at 5. Responsibilities do not disappear when the laptop closes. And if you're in some kind of management or leadership, you are well aware it's like glorified babysitting. And how does this become possible that now my job is to babysit these grown adults who should know better and to not have to deal with the things you're dealing with? I hear you. And so that's the biggest thing that I hear from leaders is the exhaustion from basically babysitting these grown adults who should be able to maybe, have figured that question out themselves or could have figured out how to show up to work or got it covered, et cetera, et cetera. And so the goal is not having a perfect balance, but the goal is how do we have a healthy integration? How does work-life integration ask different questions? How do I recover consistently? Where do I leak energy unnecessarily? What do I need to delegate to, maybe those certain things that leak the most energy is something that I can start delegating. What boundaries protect my long-term capacity? How do my leadership habits impact others? Healthy integration recognizes that there are different seasons and some weeks are heavier, some are crazy, some require more flexibility, and sustainability comes from compensating, not pretending everything is even. And leaders who expect the perfect balance are going to burn themselves and their teams trying to achieve it. And leaders who focus on integration build that resilience over time. And so burnout often starts with your identity, not being overworked. And so here's something that many leaders don't realize. Burnout often starts internally, not externally. It begins when their identity gets tangled up with output, when your worth becomes tied to your performance, when rest feels like it has to be earned rather than it's necessary. And we often think that the harder we work, the more we prove ourselves and how committed we are to our team, that we're going to create more buy-in from our team, which there's a small percentage that is healthy to do, but then we end up overworked and exhausted, and then our team thinks that they have to do the same thing in order to match your work ethic. And so it can turn into burnout and be exhausting. And so when rest feels like it's earned rather than necessary, that's not healthy. And when saying no one feels irresponsible when everything feels urgent and important. And leaders often carry unspoken pressure. If I slow down, things will fall apart. If I rest, I'm letting people down. If it's gonna be, it's up to me. If I'm not available, I'm failing. And these beliefs usually are subconscious, but they drive our behavior and they create unsustainable patterns. Resilient leaders require identity clarity. You are more than your role. Your value is not measured by availability. Your leadership impact is not defined by exhaustion. When leaders detach self-worth from overfunctioning, well-being becomes possible. And so what resilience actually is and what it's not, resilience is misunderstood. It's not about pushing harder. It's not about ignoring limits. It's not numbing stress or powering through your exhaustion. Resilience is the ability to be able to absorb the stress and recover without losing the effectiveness. Think of resilience like a muscle. Muscles grow stronger through the stress and recovery, not just the stress. Because the stress without recovery causes an injury, and recovery without stress causes stagnation or laziness. So the same is true in leadership. Resilient leaders intentionally build recovery into their rhythms. That includes physical, mental, emotional, and relational recovery. Ignoring recovery does not make you stronger. It makes the breakdown more likely. And leaders are going to set the ceiling for well-being. Whether they want to or not, here's the leadership truth that often makes people feel uncomfortable. Leaders set the ceiling for their teams, not intentionally, but practically. Leaders, if they don't take breaks, others feel guilty doing so too. If leaders send late night texts, emails, urgency becomes normalized. And if leaders never disconnect, then the over availability becomes expected. If leaders glorify exhaustion and working so hard, then burnout becomes this badge of honor. And that's the expectation we set for our entire team. Hey, let's all get burnt out together. And so even when leaders say, take care of yourself, behavior speaks louder than policy. And so people watch what you do more than what you say. And it's not about perfection. It's about awareness. It's about modeling boundaries that are not selfish. And boundaries aren't selfish because it's about leadership. And so sustainable performance requires margin, and margin is one of the most overlooked leadership tools. And margin is the space between demand and capacity. Without margin, everything feels urgent. Small issues feel overwhelming, decision quality drops, and with margin, leaders can think clearly and respond intentionally and lead calmly. Margin is created through boundaries, not busyness. And it means protecting your thinking time. It means scheduling recovery like responsibility. Schedule just like you would schedule a workout or a massage on Friday at 3 p.m. You need to be able to schedule your recovery time and protect that thinking time where you can just step back and just process. And it means saying no to things that just don't align. It means resisting the urge to fill every single moment. And high performers often struggle most with margin because they know that they can push through. But sustainable leaders know that just because you can push does not mean that you should, or that it's the right time, or that it's the priority right now. And so mental health is not separate from leadership performance either. If we talk about mental health, it's not a personal issue that stays at home. It shows up in leadership every single day, and it shows up where stress affects communication, anxiety impacts decision making, and emotional fatigue reduces the empathy, and burnout decreases creativity and patience. Leaders don't need to be therapists, but they do need to have awareness. And creating mentally healthy environments includes normalizing conversations around stress and capacity. It involves reducing shame around needing help and encouraging realistic expectations, modeling emotional regulation. When leaders prioritize mental health, performance is going to improve. Not because standards lower, but because people just function better. And boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges. Boundaries often get framed as these limitations, but in reality, boundaries create clarity. Clear boundaries tell people when you're available and when you're not. They signal respect for time and energy. They reduce resentment and confusion. Leaders without boundaries often believe that they're being supportive, but over time, they become exhausted and reactive and frustrated and ultimately not present, not mentally anyways. And so boundaries protect relationships by preventing burnout. Healthy boundaries sound like, I will respond to this tomorrow, or this can wait until our scheduled meeting, or I am offline this evening, I'll follow up in the morning. And this expectation needs to be clarified. Boundaries allow leaders to show up fully when they are present instead of just partially everywhere, because being partially present everywhere is really nowhere. And so helping teams build resilience without forcing positivity. One mistake leaders make around well-being is forcing the positivity, telling people to just stay positive during those relentless situations of pressure can feel dismissive. And so resilience is not pretending that things are fine. It's helping people navigate reality without losing hope. And so there's a healthy balance between, just stay positive and, air out your dirty laundry and be negative. And so leaders can support teams by acknowledging pressure honestly, creating the space for feedback, and celebrating the effort, not just the outcome, and encouraging recovery time after intense pushes or intense deadlines or busy seasons. And so checking in without micromanaging. Sometimes resilience looks like slowing down to be able to speed up. And so the role of rest in high performance leadership is rest is not the enemy of ambition. Rest fuels it. Leaders who rest consistently sustain clarity and creativity and emotional regulation. And leaders who avoid rest often rely on adrenaline. And that can work short term, and our body is capable, but it's not going to be sustainable long term. And rest does not always mean vacation. I can think of plenty of vacations where you feel more exhausted when you get back and you need a vacation from your vacation. And so it can just mean stepping away from screens, from all your notifications, taking short mental breaks, and creating boundaries around the weekends. And maybe it's engaging in activities that restore energy. If rest feels uncomfortable, that is information. Often it means identity has become fused with productivity. So leadership maturity includes learning how to stop without guilt. So if we talk about integrating well-being into leadership identity, the most effective leaders today integrate well-being into how they lead, not as an add-on. Well-being becomes part of decision-making. How will this impact team capacity? What is sustainable over time? Where do we need recovery built in? And what behavior am I modeling? This does not mean avoiding challenge. It means pacing it wisely. And leaders who integrate well-being lead with longevity in mind. And they understand that leadership is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So just some things to think about, and this is really important as you lead your people. So if we close out, what kind of leadership are you modeling right now? I want you to reflect on a few questions. What does my current pace communicate to others? How do I need stronger boundaries to protect my long-term effectiveness? And how am I modeling well-being through my actions? Or what would sustainable leadership look like for me in this season? And when it comes to burnout prevention, it's not about doing less, it's about leading differently. Resilient leaders do not sacrifice themselves for results. They build systems and habits and cultures that support sustainable performance. And the leaders who last are not the ones who burn brightest. They are the ones who learn to stay steady.